welcome to Real Life Matters with Sandra. On this channel, we talk about real life matters, and thank you very much for watching my previous episodes. I do value your support and your encouragement. If you haven't yet subscribed, please press the subscribe button. And also, if you want to be notified when I upload videos, click on the notification button as well.
Hello, my name is Kenny Popola, and father of 3 lovely children, and I have some weird interests, which include being addicted to the computer and technology. So, well, I just keep it as that, for now. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Joseph Popola, son of Kenny and Sandra, and yeah, I've got eclectic interests, also kind of linked to my dad's. I love technology. I'm a software engineer by trade, but I also make music, which I love, and I'm interested in philosophy. So yeah, that's
Thank
me.
you.
I'm Olivia, daughter of Kenny and Sandra.
I'm Gabrielle, the youngest of all 3 children from Kenny and Sandra.
So thank you, everyone. So as you could see, it's a family business today. We're talking about family values. So I thought, you know what, I'll bring my family along and we just kind of have a chat about what family values mean to us, what these are, and all those kind of things. So I hope you enjoy what you hear today, which are really going to be based on our own opinions and things. So I just want to say, start off by saying that values are those basic and fundamental beliefs that guide all of us and motivate us and shape our attitudes and behaviors. And each family would have their own set of values, which will probably be based on tradition, culture, the way things have always been done in a family, which is passed down from parents, grandparents, and our ancestors. So it'll be interesting to find out today what our own values are in our family. So why are values important in our everyday interactions and activities, you guys? What do you think?
Values is very, very important because more or less value define who you are.
Yeah, I agree with what Dad just said. I think even going further, it's something that helps guide you. Values help guide you when you're in tough times, when things aren't going to plan, when life throws a curveball at you. Your values are what you can rely on to help push you through that.
I just agree with what Joseph and Dad said, in the sense where it guides you when the tough times are there. It helps to keep you grounded as an individual. So values, they always come up in everyday aspects, socializing with people, how you're going to plan your route to work, different things. Values, they come up in life.
Yeah, I'd say your values are those unspoken rules that we all have, whether it's social, family, professional. It's those things that you learn, you don't realize you learn it, and you never get taught it, particularly,
That's interesting that you said that, Gabrielle, that you're not taught it. So it's not like, when we had you guys, we sat you down and go, now this is how, like, you teach children the alphabet. Nobody actually sat you down and say, these are the family values that we have, and you must obey these things, and you must demonstrate that on a day-to-day basis. It's the things that you kind of pick up. You pick up from discussions that we might have, for example, when we watch programs together, or issues come up that we just kind of pick up and we discuss as a family, and that kind of shapes our thinking and our values. So for me then, what do you think our values are, our own family values? Because like I said at the beginning, each family would have their own, which kind of shapes who they are because they're unique. Every family is unique. For us, what are our values, do you think?
Yes, I think the overarching, values that we have is the moral values that we have, which include something like trustworthiness, honesty, being hardworking, taking responsibility, for what you you do it?
I would say we also have respect, tolerance, determination, perseverance. I think those are some of our values that we definitely hone in on as a family unit.
Yeah, I would add like one more thing that's kind of stuck with me as I've moved through life, is patience. I think I've learned patience subtly from the people in our family, through different degrees, and I feel like taking that into the wider world has always put me in good stead to be prepared for the different things that might come my way.
Should we expand on some of those, because those are key things that you've mentioned? And before we expand, let me just give Gabrielle a chance to come in if she wants to add anything to that.
I mean, I feel like everyone said all the ones I can think of currently. Yeah.
I think I would add spirituality. I think we're quite spiritual in the family, as human beings, not necessarily wedged to a particular religion, or I'm not talking about religion in this case. I'm talking about spirituality, connecting to our spirits, connecting to who we are, and how we live our lives and all of that. But I just want to unpack some of those things that we've said, those characteristics that we kind of describe. Joseph, you mentioned patience. How did that come about for you in terms of, this is a virtue or value that I should hold on to?
It's funny because it didn't occur to me that I was a patient person until I started interacting with the wider world, and then they would tell me I'm a patient person. So I'm not really sure like how it became a thing that I thought had value. But I think just seeing the way everyone interacts with each other and the grace we give each other, like, of course we'll have arguments and we'll have flare-ups and people will get upset with each other, but there's always that patience of like, ultimately we want to find that understanding, we want to work things out, we are willing to do what it takes to reach whatever our goal is. And I guess that kind of links into the perseverance and dedication.
Anyone else want to kind of pick one of the characteristics and just kind of expand on that?
I want to say like perseverance and determination. I think, well, seeing both you and Dad, your journey from Nigeria to the UK, that was very inspirational, because you sacrificed a lot and you did a lot in order to kind of pave this way for us, and you persevered even when doors were shut in your face. Even when doors were shut in your face, you still persevered and continued and pushed to your limits, and now you're here and we're here, thankfully, thanks to both your perseverance and determination. So, yeah.
And to add on to Gabby's point, I suppose that was sort of passed down through our schooling as well, because I don't know about you guys, but for me, schooling wasn't the best, most enjoyable thing in life, you know what I mean? So you'd have your parents there pushing you. You're thinking, why are you pushing me? Just leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
And lo and behold, you get into the adult world and you realize that determination and that perseverance that they've instilled in us from young is actually what people admire in the workplace and what gets you to where you are. Yeah. You sort of know that no matter the situation, I know that I can achieve what I want, how I want it, and as soon as I want it, so I feel like that's guided me a lot through life, and being able to achieve what I have, even when I thought I would be nowhere near the achievements I've made, So I think those definitely are very strong for me. And again, like Gabrielle said, it's down to the two of you and seeing what you've also acquired and how you've acquired it and things like that, so that's part of the inspiration there.
Thank you. I think we could. I'd like to say, as you know me, I always like to take accolade for everything that's going. I don't shy away from that. But I think we have to give it to both paternal and maternal parents, really, your grandparents, and subsequently our ancestors. And I talked about those earlier on, that these values have been passed down from generation to generation. So it wasn't something that both of us kind of said, oh, we're going to create this thing. Obviously we brought it from wherever we came from, and hone in on that and pass those on to you guys. And I think that's really important, because those are the key things that would, as we've talked about, shape how you passage through life, if you like, and how you view the world as well, is through those family values. I don't know whether Ken wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, certainly, because when I was growing up, my parents, one of those things that they passed down, one of the values that they passed down to me was that trustworthiness, and consciously or unconsciously, they passed it down to me. When I was growing up, I was sort of a party animal, I didn't want to tell them exactly where I was going. But then my mommy would just sit me down and then tell me, look, I need to know where you are. Even if you're not going to tell me where you're going to be, tell your brother or anybody at home that this is where you are, so that if something happens, we know where you are, or we know where to find you.
If someone can't trust you or rely on you or know who you are, you're basically just wasting your time with friends and families, because they wouldn't respect you, basically. So that's really good. Do you think that then that values should change over time to align with the times, or do you think it should be static because it's family values, end of, this is how we've always done it kind of scenario?
I was just going to say that it depends on the situation. It depends on the times that we're in. Currently, we're in COVID times, and I don't feel like our values have changed because of it. But I feel like they've become stronger in a sense. I feel like the family values you have should really be the core of your person, and they shouldn't be that malleable. But it depends on what stage of life you're in and how you exhibit those values, I guess. But no, I would say they should really be the basis, the root, where everything comes from, regardless of the times you're in.
I definitely agree with that, but I also think that it depends where the root is, right? Because if we're talking about ancestors and things from the past, it's like, if the values are passed down through years, through generations, I think there's a Yoruba saying, it's an old saying, and it's something like, all knowledge will transform beyond recognition. And it's basically saying that what we know today will not be the same thing we know tomorrow or the day after or the day after. So it's kind of giving you the grace to be able to adapt your values if some new information arises that makes you think about the world differently, that makes you reason about the world, interacting with people differently. So I think definitely agree that, for a person, your family values should be your core, but then the family values as a whole might shift and change as the times change, because you get new information, you learn new things, the world opens up.
That's absolutely right, because people evolve over time, and therefore the culture also and the values also evolve. So, and value is refined over time as well. So there's no value cannot be static, in essence.
Well, I think I do understand where Olivia is coming from, though, when she said it's your core, is your being. So there are those core values, regardless of anything, you will not compromise on them. For example, in terms of being honest, You know, there shouldn't be a scenario where you find yourself that evolves to something else, you know, to something else negative. Those are core fundamental values that shouldn't change, shouldn't because of circumstances or environment or weather or whatever. Those are core. There are some that will change, obviously, like you've described, both yourself and Joseph have described, but I think there are some that are really core that you need to hang on to. For example, for love of people, you shouldn't then turn into hate of people, regardless of what you might. If someone hurts you, do you then stop loving them as a human being because they've hurt you and because you want to evolve? You still love them, but what you might do is maybe change your attitude or behavior towards them, but your core being of your value has remained the same, which is love.
But yeah, I think it's a bit different, because I think there's a difference between family values and your social values that you take with you on a daily basis. I feel like family values are more concrete and, you know, rooted, whereas social values, they can then change depending on the circumstance. So like you said, you have the core of loving someone and loving people, but if they do something to hurt you, your natural instinct might be, actually, I don't like you for the minute, you know, or your natural instinct in that a particular situation may be to be honest, but depending on the circumstances, you have to be dishonest for that moment. And those are, I would say, are your social values that are more malleable. And your family values, they will stay the root. They will always be the root of you as your person. But on a day-to-day basis, they may be suppressed for certain reasons or certain circumstances.
As human beings, and this is just human beings in general, do we think that we have core values that guide our behavior towards one another as human beings, as one race?
I don't think we do, but I think we aspire to. I think human beings are all vastly different. A lot of the time, it's a balance of fighting between, or maybe not fighting, is learning to switch between how you feel and what you think. And I feel like sometimes your values are what you think. Like Olivia was saying in that example, when someone does something wrong to you, your initial reaction, the feeling might be of anger, of, you know, maybe not as far as hatred, but you might not want to be around that person, to put it nicely. But then you rise into your thinking brain and realize that, wait, hold on, if I think about my values, my core values, it wouldn't make sense for me to react in that way, or for me to enact some wrongdoing on that person. But I think that is always a balance. That's always something we're trying to improve on as people, and I think even as an entire race of people, not just as an individual.
I think my answer to that is a bit different from yours, because you see, the society rewards what's good, and the society frown against what's not very good. So somehow there is maybe an unspoken rule as to values that we have certain values, a sort of a guiding principle around that as a human being.
I agree with you, but I think like you're very optimistic about humanity. I think if we look at history, if we look at, for example, attitudes towards Black people in the 1800s, the core value in most people would be love, but the way they treated other people wasn't with that same value. And so I think even when we do have these massive social constructs which are meant to kind of guide us as human beings, sometimes it fails, and sometimes we need to rectify that and think about it. It can't just be something we assume is always going to be good. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with Joseph, because, well, I agree with both of you.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, if you think of a child, you have to teach them those values, and then you have to teach them how to use those values. The primary school I work in, we are a value-based primary school, so we teach a number of values per month. We say, you know, we have the value of tolerance in January, for example, and we try to promote that, try to promote that, try to promote that. But initially, children are going to go back to their instinct of what they know. You know, they're going to think, actually, no, I want to be mean because I want to be mean. They're not going to be thinking with their tolerance head. They're not going to be thinking with that. So it's like Joseph said, there's within yourself, you'll fight. So sometimes you might be fighting between the values you have and what you think is your natural instinct. But then on the other hand, like you said, Dad, we would reward that the display of values in our school. You know, we promote that heavily. So children will then learn by a certain age what is meant to be the good basis of a foundation and the bad basis of a foundation. And then throughout life, you'd hope that they would draw on those values and then promote the values that are required at certain times. So I think they both collide, but it's just in a different sense of where we are in society and how we're going to look at that in society, really.
I think I like the fact that you kind of said they both collide, but it's not just both. There are lots and lots of things that collide at the same time, which then changes the way someone might react to a situation or behave towards somebody else. For example, societal values and things are there, environmental issues will come, economic will play its own part, political will play its own part, and before you know it, you've got a cocktail of confusion that an individual is having to grapple with and going, what do I do in this scenario? And then that's when they need to reflect and go back inwards, I think, to look at what their foundation is as a human being, as a family member. In Nigeria, we know, particularly the Yoruba culture, that there's a saying around good name is better than any money or gold or whatever. What does that mean? It means that they expect you to be a decent human, solid being, that regardless of what trials and tribulations you might face, you know, that should not compromise your integrity. As a Yoruba person, that should not compromise your integrity. And over time, of course, people face with challenges that I'd mentioned in terms of social, societal, political, and all of that. They fall by the wayside, unfortunately, and compromise. You know, but when they go deep in themselves, they will find that their family values, which was kind of imbibed in them and imbibed in the Yoruba culture, you know, it's something that should really be their guide, and they should resist. But I think as human beings, I do agree, definitely, we have some kind of inherent core values in us, the good and the bad. I think everybody is born with that. And I would like someone to disagree with me on that one, because I don't think we're created to be bad. I think there is the good and the bad in everybody, but it's what you tune to the most that should be the guiding principle of life, for example, you know. But yeah, so I don't know if anybody wants to add any more to it before I go on to.
Yeah, I just want to say that we are all spiritual beings. One way or the other, we believe in something, you know, whether it's science or even religion, you know. So, and one way or the other, when you are doing something good, your innate sense tells you that, well, you know, this is something good, you know. And if it's something bad, you know yourself, you know, without nobody telling you. So therefore, you know, so those are the key sort of principle, you know, guiding human being, you know, in its own way.
Is it called conscience, do you think?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, your conscience or sixteenth. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because that leads on to the debate on whether morality is learnt or it's something innate, which is a very difficult conversation, I guess. Some believe that morality actually is taught, and you're not born with it. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, like to go off what Gabriel's saying, I think it's a combination of I guess the argument is nature and nurture.
Yeah.
I think it is a combination of the two, because like Dad, honestly, you're just a really kind person. So for you, inherently, you feel like, you know, like this is the way the world must be. But I can tell you that it's not all the time that someone is trying to be negative or to do something wrong. Sometimes they just don't realize that what they're doing is wrong in that context. So they might do something and it's bad, but they don't feel bad. And it's not until they've had conversations with people or the person they've hurt that they realize that this is a bad thing. And then from there, when they go forward, they know when they do certain things, it will be bad. But I do think there is like a general, I guess because we grow up in society, there's always a general morality or kind of moral compass that we can use to steer our decisions. But I don't know if it's inherent. Like I don't know. I think it's probably a combination.
I think I agree that it's a combination. It's nature nurture thing, and I think we could go on. That's for another day, to be honest, because that in itself, once you start to unpack that, you know, you never leave today. So let's just leave that one for now, and we may come back to it at future dates in terms of, you know, thinking about nature or nurture and what does that mean, and the issues around that as well. So I just want to touch slightly on the consequences. You know, are there consequences to not following the core human values? So we talk about the good and the bad and all of those. Are there consequences to people? You know, what are those?
I think it depends on the gravity, isn't it? Because if you, for example, if you start off by, so the value of respect, if you start off disrespecting people, you know, that disrespect could lead to other things, could lead to other things, could lead to other things. And then before you know it, you could end up in jail for the fact that the root is you just didn't know how to respect people and things like that, you know. So I think depending on the gravity of the situation, yes, there are consequences. But at the same time, not necessarily, because if you're unkind to one person at one time, there might not be a consequence. So it depends on how much it goes down the line, how much it leads up to, what it leads up to, and so forth.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd say that jumping on the respect value again, if I encounter someone and they don't respect me, then I probably wouldn't talk to them again. And if they do that to someone else, they might not talk to them again. And it could lead to them being alienated from society due to the fact that they don't have that value of respect kind of thing. Instead of jail, it could literally be like alienation as well. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
I think respect, in a way, you're talking from an individual level. What about not respecting the law, for example, or disregarding the law, for example? That would end
you up in jail. Yeah,
like you just
well,
said.
not necessarily jail.
That's if you get caught.
Depends on what kind of law you break. Yeah, first it depends. I don't know if you should be saying this, but depends if you get caught, and then also, it also depends on what the gravity of the crime was. You know.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the law, sorry, Dad, I'll just say this one point. In terms of the law, I think there's and in terms of like what Olivia was saying as well, I think there are always consequences. Whether the consequences comes back to the person who initially perpetrated whatever they did is a different question. But I think the consequence of that person being, you know, disrespectful is that person they were disrespectful to now has to deal with that themselves. And depending on who they are and where they are in life, they could take it quite badly, or they could be the type of person to brush it off. So I think there are always consequences. It's just whether it finds its way back to you or not. And I think it does ultimately in the end, in some way, if it's like social alienation, if it's going to jail, if it's, you know, I don't know, bashing your knee one random time. You're like, why?
Karma.
I don't know. Like, not to say that I believe in karma, but I do think that, you know, if you put out bad energy, you're going to get back bad energy.
I agree.
I mean, I do agree with that. There's usually consequences, in following, adhering to values. And if you don't adhere to values, in some cases, there's always consequences, in some beliefs, people can actually disown you for not following their values, in traditional sense, for example, if your parents, are of certain tradition, and you want to deviate from that, they might just, sort of castigate you from the family, more or less, and also, but if you followed it, then they might actually reward you, for that. So yes, there's always consequences, for living or following values, traditional values. Yeah.
That's very good. Thank you so much. So is there anything else that anyone wants to add that you kind of missed out before I wrap up?
No, thanks for having us, Mum.
Thank you for coming on to talk about family values. Very interesting, actually, and I hope that the viewers will take a lot away from what we've talked about today, and maybe think about their own family values as well. Have a discussion with your children about that, what they think and all of that, because I think it's always interesting to hear from other people that you live with or you are bonded with in a way, to kind of check on each other, that the values that you hold dear are still there. So values are like moral compass. I think Joseph said that at the beginning sometime in the discussion, and these are good, desirable and worthwhile values, and like I said, everyone should try and check what theirs are for their own family. So we've come to the end of this episode for today, and if there is any topic that you would like me to cover, please let me know by dropping it in the comment section, and I'd love to hear your views, and also if you want me to notify you when I upload videos, please press the notification button, and don't forget to share the video with your friends and your family. Thank you and take care. Bye bye for now.
Bye.
Hey.